Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys Magic. This is Hunter, David, Steven, and Shane. Say what up, boys.
How's it going?
Howdy, partners.
What's up, nerds?
We are back with another episode of Commander Grades, this time taking a look at all of the monocolored legendary creatures that can be potential commanders from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. That's right, today we are doing another episode in case you are new here. What we do is we discuss all of these legendary creatures as a potential commander, the helm of a deck, and give them a grade. And then at the end, we give a kind of average grade between all four of us. Again, this is not gospel or anything like that. We are giving our opinions. So, is it just our opinions? Not necessarily the full truth, unless you're David. But that is the segue to start this video off. Before we do, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, so you're staying up to date with all these videos. This first card is the mono white one. This is Fortune, Loyal Steed. It is 2 and a white for a 2/4 legendary creature beast mount. It says when it enters the battlefield, scry 2. It also says whenever Fortune attacks while saddled, at the end of combat, exile it and up to one creature that saddled it this turn. Then return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. It's got a saddle of 1. Saddle is a new mechanic here in Outlaws of Thunder Junction. What it is, imagine it kind of like crewing a vehicle, except the vehicle is already a creature. So you tap down a creature with power 1 for Fortune to saddle it up and let it swing. So we got ourselves a Blink commander in the saddle variety. What do we think, David?
I opened 2 of these at the pre-release, and I played around with them, and this card was pretty cool in that environment. I do have some legitimate concerns, though, in that, like, it is a commander that has to attack to really, like, do its thing, and it is a 2/4, so it's probably not going to do a whole lot. The benefit, though, is that it does have an ETB, and it's very easy to saddle this.
Definitely. Yeah, with the 1 power just to saddle this is really easy. I think you're going to get a lot of value just because it is attacks. However, it only triggered at the end of combat. So if you don't make it through the end of combat, if someone, like you said, David, a 2/4 not doing a whole lot, someone kills this before the end of combat, like blocks, you're sad.
It seems like a fun helper in the 99 of a list. Unless there's some just like broken combo out there already, like, which I'm sure, blinking things is good, but if I'd want him at the helm.
I mean, I think that's where my issue is with this card. I think could be fun for somebody that wants to play something like this with blink style effects, but I feel like if you're gonna go blink, don't do mono white, add some blue in there, do something else, use another commander, really. I think it could be fun. I think if you're trying to do certain things with blink, there's definitely better ways to go around it than just having this in your command zone.
Yeah, I agree with you. The ETB is kind of irrelevant too, just scrying too, but man, if it was just attacks while saddled, I mean, I guess you want to do the thing at the end of combat? I don't know why. It's not even at your next main phase. I don't know. I don't think it would make a difference, but like I said, having someone able to block it and kill it does put a hindrance on this card. And Steven, you are right, being only monocolored makes it a little worse too.
I mean, not to also mention, you got to get to your next like you got to get around the whole table. But I think that this card people aren't really going to look at. So I think if you do play it and you are trying to do something, you could probably get away with it.
But let's go ahead and move on to the grades. We will start once again with David. David, what are you giving Fortune Loyal Steed?
Because of how fragile and limited this thing is, I am actually going to give it a D.
I completely agree with you. It's getting a D from me as well.
Yep. I think I'm on the D train.
And we're all on D's.
Ah, cool.
D's.
All right. Fortune Loyal Steed gets the average grade of a D. And that was the only mono white legendary creature. We're moving on to the mono blue now. First up, Fblthp, Lost on the Range. It is 1 and 2 blue for a 1/1 legendary creature, Humunculus. It's got Ward 2. It says you may look at the top card of your library anytime, and the top card of your library has plot. The plot cost is equal to its mana cost, and you may plot non-land cards from the top of your library. So if you didn't know what plot is, a brand new mechanic. Basically, you exile it with the plot cost, and then you can play it on another turn for free. How do we feel about Fblthp Lost on the Range, Steven?
I love it. Comes down cheap. Obviously, it's a 1/1, but doesn't really matter. You're not really swinging with this guy. I think the Ward 2, even though, sometimes it doesn't matter, but early game, it will matter a lot, in my opinion. But just being able to look at the top card of your library at any time is super awesome. There's definitely ways to manipulate the top of your deck, Sensei's Divining Top and sorts of stuff like that. And I do love the plot mechanic. I think it's actually a super strong mechanic. So just being able to mess around with the top of your deck, plot something that's going to be really good. I think the only downside with plot is obviously people are going to see what you're going to do. So it kind of gives your opponents an idea of how to prepare for their turn. So that's kind of the big downside. But I mean, other than that, I mean, I really enjoy this card.
Reminds me of that doctor that cared about uh, suspending things, where it's like they're gonna see it coming. But this is kind of cool because you get to play all those if you want on one turn. So you have like 5 things plotted. You can just be like boom, 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 boom. You can just like shotgun something. That can kind of be kind of cool. I think I'm on the board with Steven.
Definitely like a storm kind of feel to it, right? You just kind of plot everything away and then just cast them all for free on one turn. If you got multiple things that are really good that's now been plotted, your opponents really have to decide what to counter out of all those plot cards.
I actually look at this card a little bit differently, just like trying to make the most out of the card advantage engine. My brain goes to like Cheerios or like Affinity, where it's like, okay, how can I play like the absolute maximum number of spells? And then I love how it's Stephen brought up too, like deck manipulation, being able to look at the top card, like being able to do things like Sensei's Divining Top so that you're guaranteed like hitting something that is routinely cheap. Obviously, like the downside being is that you can't plot lands. So if you have like that critical mass of those in a row, like you're just kind of like puttering out there. But it's a massive card advantage engine.
Oh, without a doubt. This is like always having an extra card in your hand at all times, except, like you said, if it was land, you don't get to do anything with that. But yeah, man, this is a power engine, I would say. I think we're all on the same page here. Let's go ahead and move straight to the grades. Shane, what are you giving Fblthp?
I think he's cool, but I think he's just, I don't know, maybe kind of fragile at the same time, like David mentioned. I think I'm gonna give him a C.
I think I'm going to join you there. As much as I love him, he's still a 1/1. He's very easy to remove. I know he's got the Ward 2, but he's still a C for me.
I'm gonna give him a B. I'm not so worried about the fragileness of this one because it's just like gonna sit around and because it's not like in your face what this card is doing. I don't think he's actually gonna have a very high like threat level there. I love card advantage and this is really good at it.
Yeah, I was kind of debating between a C and a B, although I do really love the card advantage. I don't think people are going to look at this card and want to remove it, so I think it'll stay around a longer time than most commanders. I just think my only issue is that it is a monocolor, and just kind of like sprinkling in something else would have really given this a better grade. But I think I'm going to go on the higher side, so I think I will give this a B as well.
Fblthp, lost on the range, is not lost after all. He gets the average grade of a B. Next up, another mono blue one. It's Geralf the Fleshwright. 2 and a blue for a 2/3 legendary creature human warlock. It says whenever you cast a spell during your turn other than the first spell that turn, create a 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature token. It also says whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each other zombie that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. I would say the resident zombie player at the table would have to be Steven. Steven, what do you think of the new Geralf?
I wish it had black in it. I mean, honest to God, man, this card would have been really good if it was 2-color. I feel like most of the zombies I play are usually, black. Geralf being mono blue here, it's fun, but I mean, I think that it kind of goes away from the zombie theme of it. I think at this point, you're like mono blue, kind of slinging. I mean, well, obviously mono blue, but you're basically just trying to sling spells and amass an army in that kind of aspect. I am instantly going to throw this into my will help deck for sure. But as a monocolor commander at the helm of my deck, I mean, I like it. I'm just not thrilled. I really wish it was blue black to mirror.
I think this is an interesting lane for zombies though, because like this could very well be the zombie tribal commander. This is like the only thing producing zombies, and you're just caring about spells like you mentioned. Because as long as you're casting more than one spell, this guy, there's no like valve on it. You're just gonna keep making those zombies, like who cares if you don't have any more zombies in your deck? This guy makes it. It's like he's the only one going to be doing your thing for you. So maybe that'd be actually kind of bad because then if he's not on the field, what are you doing? But
I mean, I like that explanation for sure, Shane. I think my only issue is that it only works during your turn.
True.
So you really have to be slinging all those spells during your turn. Now, granted, obviously, Mono Blue has a ton of like cheap little like cantrips you can use, but I don't know, man. Like it's very limited in the fact that you can only do stuff on your turn. Normally with blue, you're wanting to hold up, some mana to counter some stuff and do some stuff during other people's turns. And this kind of just makes you want to like just take mono blue aggro, which is really interesting, it's kind of a fun way to kind of play it.
This 100% actually looks like a card that I would gravitate towards. So for the viewers at home, I like to do this thing where I make tribal decks, except for there's actually like nothing of that specific, or I guess kindred decks, but nothing of that specific kindred whenever it comes to like actually being in the deck. It's just a commander that happens to produce that specific kind of token.
Yep.
So that is immediately what I look at with this. Is like, this is my zombie deck. And I'm going to show up with this, and I'm going to have 0 zombies in the entire deck aside from this, and just play a blue storm deck or just like blue spellslinger and make 15 million zombies and put a bunch of counters on things and then just have fun with it. I like this card a lot. Plus, it only costs 3 mana, so it's relatively easy to get down. I mean, if your opponent's gun for it, you're in blue. You should be packing counter magic. And if they manage to get through, just recast him. He's cheap.
yeah, I knew you were gonna say something like that. Good. Like your fairy deck, your snake deck, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Imagine just casting 3 spells, and the first spell you cast is a zombie. Those 3 spells are going to trigger this to make 2 more zombies, and then those other 2 get +1/+1. If they're not zombie cards, it gets insane. Like if you cast your third spell, if 1, 2, 3 spells were all zombie cards, you're making, what is that? 4/4 and a 5/5 zombie, but just from the spells. That's pretty cool. I like it.
I mean, I immediately go to a dramatic reversal, Isochron Scepter kind of like vibe here. And I mean, and being in mono blue, tutoring for such things is very, very easy. So, I mean, it definitely has a fun line to play. And David brings up a really good point. You're going to be packing some counter magic, so might as well. I honestly might sound crazy saying this. I think I don't put any creatures in this deck.
That's exactly what Dave's saying.
Yep, it's your zombie deck with no zombies.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to the grades. Dave, you seem the highest on Geralf. What are you giving it?
I'm going to give it a B. I like this card quite a bit.
Yeah, I was also on the B train.
B.
We talked Steven
Yeah,
into a B.
I
I
can't.
mean, I
do
was
B.
at a B regardless.
Can't do B. It makes blue and black zombies. I think it's better in a support piece of a zombie deck. So I'm going to give it a C. Geralf, the Fleshwright, gets the average grade of a B. Moving on to the mono black legendary creatures from the set. The first up is Gisa, the Hellraiser. It's 3 and 2 black for a 4/4 legendary creature human warlock. It's got ward 2 and pay 2 life. It says skeletons and zombies you control get +1/+1 and have menace. It also says whenever you commit a crime, create 2 tapped 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature tokens. This ability triggers only once each turn. We got skeletons and zombies.
Nah,
Normally just zombies, but we got skeletons in there too for whatever reason.
I think all the stuff that we talked about in the last card, the opposite here. It's got a valve that shuts us off, so you can't take advantage of doing this. I mean, I guess you could do it on everyone's turn. Okay, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm talking myself kind of back into it.
It's a lord, Shane.
And it is a lord, but I'm just saying, like, the last one seemed cooler, but maybe this one is cool too, actually.
This one's way cooler.
I think it's pretty cool.
I don't know if it's cooler.
I mean, you're committing crimes. So obviously, mono black is very well known for really good spot removal, graveyard hate, and there's been a lot of creatures that have been printed recently that really make this card good. I mean, Lord Skitter, you can literally play it as soon as you go into combat. You're going to target something in somebody's graveyard, exile it, and that's committing a crime. So you can literally do something on everybody's turn and create all these zombies, and they're buffed because of this card. I mean, really, the only downside is the protection aspect isn't that fun. But with being mono black, you do have some fun outlets for card draw by sacking those zombies. And I mean, this is fantastic. I really do enjoy this card quite a bit, and it's making 2 of them, which is insane. So by the turn cycle, I mean, you do this on your 2, 4, 6, 8. You're making 8 zombies if you do something on everybody's turn.
And they're
I think it's great.
3/3 with menace. I don't know. I agree with Steven. I think this is a pretty powerful card. In the right kind of build, I'm kind of glad that they added skeletons on there. It gives you a bit more flexibility.
I think for many of the reasons why I like the last card are the reasons why I actually don't care for this one.
It's because you want to actually be a kindred deck here, where the other one doesn't have to be.
No, this one also, once again, this is your crime deck. It's not necessarily just whenever it comes to skeletons and zombies, although she is fairly decent in a skeleton and zombie build. Looking at this card, creating the 2/2 creature tokens that are tapped means that if you're doing that, you're going to be like exposing yourself. I don't know. I view her as like her threat level is higher, but she's making fewer tokens, and the tokens don't defend her, like don't defend that player because they come in tapped. And you're also irritating all your opponents because if you're committing crimes, you're interacting with them. Whereas like the previous one, you don't have to. If I'm just like brainstorming into an opt or something, I'm making zombies that way. I view this card as like this one has a much higher like salt or hatred level. It's more expensive and it's slower.
It's almost like you're raising hell.
I don't think so. I think you're not like I see the potential here is like, yeah, in an ideal world you're making 6 or I guess 8. You're making 8 2/2s or 3/3 zombies like per turn cycle. I don't see it with Gisa. I think you could probably do that in a single turn with the last card we talked about, and they're going to be much bigger. I don't think that you're going to be able to consistently hit that without really irritating somebody.
I thought the exact same thing, dude. Because like when they were talking it up, it's like you're annoying everyone by targeting their stuff, and then you're just gonna be getting hit. So like you're gonna have all these guys, and you're like, oh, David over there has 8 tapped zombies. I'm gonna swing at him now before he untaps. Like you're gonna take a beating.
Yeah, but then you're gonna get the retaliation. And if you're coming into your turn with a ton of open mana and 8 3/3s with menace, that's not a joke.
Yeah, but that's
because I'll tell you what, in our last game where you're playing Vahan and you have an army of treasures that are 3/3s with vigilance and haste, I'm not swinging at you when your treasures aren't creatures because I don't want that retaliation. And I think that's kind of like what this card kind of does. Although, yes, you're open, I do feel like, being in mono black, there's tons of ways to gain life. There's tons of ways to use your life as a resource. So I think that I understand your point. I do think this card is a little worse than the last one because it is mono black and there's not as much protection for this card. But you're still doing fun stuff. And at the end of the day, you could just wipe the board.
Go ahead and move on to the grades. We will start with Steven. You seem the highest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at a lower B than the last one, but I'm still at a B.
I think I am going to go ahead and give it another C.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm much, not much. Much is not the right word. I'm lower, at a C.
I'm gonna give it a C. A part of me actually honestly wants to give this card a D because I feel like this is gonna be one that like gets a lot of hate. But I'm gonna give it a C.
Well, Gisa, the Hellraiser, gets the average grade of a C. Moving on to Kaervek the Punisher. It is 1 and 2 black for a 3/3 legendary creature, human warlock. It says whenever you commit a crime, exile up to 1 target black card from your graveyard and copy it. You may cast a copy. If you do, you lose 2 life.
Some good reanimator spells.
And I feel like this is where David and I are going to differ.
What, you don't like reanimation?
I do like reanimation. I don't know, man.
It's an interesting reanimation because you can only reanimate it 1 time because you're exiling the card and making it a copy of it. So, and because you're making a copy of it, copies comes in at tokens, which means removal when it comes to mana value is a lot easier to attack with. So that's only if you're doing creatures, but you can, for example, commit the crime, and then exile the card you just committed the crime with? Do
I
we
think you're
get
thinking too small. This doesn't just care about creatures in the graveyard. This
It
grabs all of your things from the graveyard.
just said that?
Yeah, but you're thinking too small.
Yeah, stop thinking so small. Like this essentially is like all of your removal now can be played twice. All of your board wipes can be played twice. Like all of your creatures can be played twice. That is so much value on a commander like this. That's nuts to me. Now, you are going to lose 2 life each time, and you still have to cast the things that you're trying to get back, but I think it's cool.
But David, you're committing crimes.
Oh, you are. Don't get me wrong.
You're gonna piss off your opponents.
I do think that you're going to piss off your opponents. I don't think you're going to make them as mad as the last one because you're not amassing a giant army in the process. So there's not like this pivotal threat. They're going to be able to look at your graveyard and be like, okay, is there a thing in there that's going to irritate me if he gets that card back? Which probably so. But this card also only costs 3. So it's a little bit friendlier whenever it comes to the mana value of this. I don't know. I don't think the card is great. I just think it's a decent engine for what it does.
Like a worse Leer. They're the one I'm thinking of, right? The blue guy lets you play from your graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
Instant sorcery.
Flashback,
Oh yeah.
instants and sorceries.
Like a. Well, I'm only saying worse too because you got to commit the crime. It's like more hoops to get to do the thing you're trying to do.
I mean, you got to spend the mana to commit the crime to a certain extent. Obviously, there are cards that'll let you do that for free. And then you got to use more mana to cast that spell again, and you're losing 2 life. I see the upside and be able to play your stuff twice. I mean, or even once, because obviously you know, with being in black, you can just search stuff and put it in your graveyard pretty cheaply. But you know, if I know anything, you know, there's that one guy out there that'll put a scavenger grounds in every single deck he plays.
I'm going
Who's
to go
that?
ahead and say right here, the
David.
floor of this card is that if you're not committing a crime, this card does nothing.
Well, yes.
I mean, that's the last card too, you know.
That is true. Just
Yeah,
build
Hunter.
around it.
I don't know, why didn't you bring it up the last card?
Hey, I'm just saying. I feel like this is just, I don't know. I like the other one better.
I guess no, the last card also was a Lord, so we can't say that, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, it does. It's a 3 mana 3/3 unless you're doing the crimes. I hope you're doing.
And remember it. Crimes is only targeting. So if you're forcing a sack, it's not a crime. Let's go ahead and move into the grades. For Kaervek, for me, I'm actually not high on this card whatsoever. I'm giving it a D.
I mean, I see potential here, so I'll jump up to a C.
I'm going to give it a C.
I'm probably gonna stick on the C train.
Kaervek, the Punisher, gets the average grade of a C. Moving on to the littlest skeleton of them all, it's Tinybones, the Pickpocket. It's 1 black mana for a 1/1 legendary creature skeleton rogue. It's got Death Touch, and it says, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. Tinybones, stealing your stuff.
No.
I don't know, Hunter. You played the Steely deck, and like this deck is only as good as your opponents, which I get they're gonna be playing mana. I get they're gonna be playing Magic, but I don't know, man. I don't think I'm for it.
If I have something in my graveyard I don't want you to get, I will just block Tinybones, and since he's a 1/1, he's just gonna die.
That touch.
So will
but,
your
yeah.
card.
That's fine. I'm more than happy to trade like a Llanowar Elves for somebody's commander.
I mean, I love this card so much. I think the meme value is really good here. Plus, you're going to be playing a deck where you're forcing discards, and to be honest, most of the time that includes yourself, which is a little unfortunate. So you're kind of playing off the top of your deck, but your opponents will too. There's tons of ways to do that, and I do enjoy that. I love the fact that it's 1 mana. It's a 1/1 with Death Touch. This comes down literally turn 1, unless you keep a no land hand, which why would you do that? But I mean, I think that there's a lot of upside potential, and there's tons of ways to give something menace, or you know, I honestly don't think a lot of people are blocking with a Death Toucher. So I don't know.
I mean, it comes down turn 1 and does absolutely nothing for you for the first couple turns.
I mean, you don't know that. What are the other cards in your hand? You're
me out.
playing you're playing a deck that's going to be based around discard, and there's tons of ways to do that. I don't think that what you're saying is terribly accurate.
Wait, what?
But I mean, at the same time, I mean, I could mill your Soul Ring. I
You're
could
gonna make me
not
mill,
mill,
okay.
sorry, but I could make you discard cards. I could make you. This deck has a lot of upside. Is the
thought
point
you
I'm
were-
trying to get at?
I thought you were trying to say that you could play stuff from your graveyard. That's not gonna happen.
No,
Got it.
I mean
I'm
you
gonna
can. It's
I'm
mono
gonna take
black.
this deck in a different direction. Here we go. You ready for
Mhm,
this?
I'm ready.
Tinybones, Voltron.
All right, we can move to the grades.
I don't see Voltron on this card at all.
No,
Comes down early, and then you can start just equipping him with everything.
Nope.
And you can get in with that damage, dude. And
There-
kill your opponents with
let's
command
go to
damage.
let's go to EDH Rec real quick and see how many fucking Voltron decks there are with Tinybones.
Hey, Steven, I already did the math for you. It's 0.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on to the grades. I am still gonna give Tinybones a D.
He does something, and for that, I'm giving him a D.
Best case scenario, this trades with the Mana Dork. This is an F.
Come on, boys. I'm gonna give Tinybones a C, and to be honest with you, there's only on EDH Rec, there's only 15 decks that are equipment themed, and if there were 16, I probably would have given it a B, but I'm gonna stick with a C.
See, Steven gets it. Tinybones gets the average grade of a D. Moving on to Vadmir New Blood. It's 1 and a black for a 2/2 legendary creature vampire rogue. It says whenever you commit a crime, put a +1/+1 counter on Vadmir New Blood. This ability triggers only once each turn. And as long as Vadmir has 4 or more +1/+1 counters on it, it has menace and lifelink.
Hunter,
Simple, to the point.
here's your Voltron commander.
At that point,
+1/+1 counters, Dave.
Yeah, and Menace and Lifelink, and it comes down early.
I don't
Yeah,
like this
it's a
card
bear.
at all.
No, it's really good in standard at the moment, except in EDH, I do not see a home for it, like at all.
It's a standard plant.
It is standard legendary. But we will talk about it as the potential commander, because this is commander grades. Steven, what do you think about Vadmir?
Well, I say it at least once in every video, and I think this is the card. I'll say it for this video.
Ooh, I can't wait.
My mama told me,
Hmm.
if you ain't got nothing nice to say, you don't say it at all.
You've never said that in any of our videos.
I have said that
He
in
100%.
plenty of our videos.
No, I thought you were gonna go. But this is what I'm gonna say. Meh.
True. It's been a while for that one, too.
I have not said man in a while. I'm sorry, guys.
I think
Sorry.
we can move on to the grades. This is a quick one. I think we're all on the same page, too. So I'll start.
Oh.
Vadmir, for me, is getting an F.
Yep. It's getting an F for me as well.
I'm going to give it a D.
Of course you were.
I'm going to give it an F.
Vadmir New Blood gets the average grade of an F. Moving on to the mono red legendaries, we're starting with Calamity, Galloping Inferno. It's 4 and 2 red for a 4/6 legendary creature horse mount. It's got haste, and it says whenever it attacks while saddled, choose a non-legendary creature that's saddled at this turn and create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of it. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step. Repeat this process once. It's got a saddle of 1.
Two quick ones back to back.
I disagree. I think it's pretty
Please convince me.
cool. Okay. The thing you're saddling with, as much as it pains me to say from the Fortune one where you lose out on an attack trigger, you don't actually lose out on the thing that's saddling it because it can still attack, except it's the token copy. And then you repeat it, which means it does it again. It's a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Not doing it.
It's just expensive and like six mana, dude.
It has haste, and with any of the, like, whenever this creature deals combat damage, take an extra combat. This goes nuts.
It does go nuts.
This has the potential to just, like, drop, saddle, swing, and end the game.
Yeah. 6 combats, thank you.
Rather just play Godo and Helm of the Host.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's like along the same play style. However, there are like for example, like what is it, Delina the Wild Mage, the one that one of our close friends plays with, where it's like the same kind of style of like I'm just gonna take 5 combats this turn and I'm gonna beat you to death with a 5/5 flyer. Like it gets really scary really quick whenever it starts to kick, and this thing coming down with haste means that you can just like use that opportune moment, swing in, cause a massive amount of damage.
Saddle this with Terror of the Peaks. Get in with a lot of
Mm.
damage.
They're expensive creatures.
Yeah, you could saddle it though. That's fine. Saddle it up, make 2 more Terror of the Peaks. They all trigger off of each other. It's a ton of damage coming at one player.
I've never seen a Terror of the Peaks last more than 2 turns.
You don't need it to. This will
Yeah.
kill you. This will kill you faster than that.
I mean, dude, if you're playing this and Terror of the Peaks in the same turn, then yeah, you should be winning the game.
Not something with a lot of mana.
That's a ton of mana.
Yeah. What's red really good at? Making treasure.
I mean,
have the mana.
yeah, red also has a lot of really good rituals and stuff like that. There's other things that you could take advantage to. I mean, like just on the base of like you don't even have to necessarily like saddle with big creatures. Like saddle your Dockside Extortionist.
True.
There you go. There's a ton of treasures. You just made 2 more copies.
I just don't. I'd rather just add more colors and do other things. I mean, I get where you guys are going with it. It's just no.
I'm very combat focused player.
Oh, we
and
know.
This is
You?
right up my alley. I love this card. All right, let's move on to the grades then. Calamity for me, I'm giving it a B.
You know what, Hunter? You've convinced me. I think this card could possibly pop off. David, you're very right. There's a bunch of rituals. You guys got me there. This is a D.
I didn't know that was gonna happen. I feel like I'm more in the middle of the road. I think I'm gonna stick with a C.
I don't think I'm going to save the grade, but genuinely, I actually do think that this card is a B. I think that this probably just ends somebody's game whenever it drops.
Calamity Galloping Inferno gets the average grade of a C. Moving on to another mono red legendary. It is Magda. Welcome back. The Hoardmaster. It's 1 and a red for a 2/2 legendary creature, Dwarf Berserker. It says whenever you commit a crime, create a tapped treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn. And it has an ability where you can sacrifice 3 treasures to create a 4/4 red scorpion dragon creature token with flying and haste. Activate only as a sorcery.
Oh boy. Did they just look at
Man,
the other Magda and go, let's just not make that again?
that's a nuke it a little bit.
I don't like this
Yeah.
card at all, dude.
Instead of having her being tapped, it makes tap treasure. How do we
Mm-mm.
feel about it, Dave?
So red has a lot of like direct damage outlets. I do think that this might be something that you could relatively easily be able to actually target opponents every single turn. I think we're probably going to run into the same problem that we did whenever it came with the other commit a crime commanders, though, is that like you're going to have relatively high hate if you're doing what you are supposed to be doing. This does give your treasures like an outlet to just win the game for you with 4/4 dragons, and it does only cost 2 mana, so the floor is relatively high still, and that like you'll still be able to cast this thing multiple times.
They just put every safety valve in the world on this card.
Oh, they did. I mean, realistically speaking, I'm not creating 4/4s at instant speed if they have haste. I'm probably making them at sorcery speed during my first main phase so I can hit somebody with combat damage. So I don't see that one as much of a downside. The treasures coming in tapped is most certainly slow, and only being able to commit a crime once per turn also limits this as well. But I think there's probably ways to get around that in red reliably.
I think it's pretty solid because you're going to be putting every single treasure maker in this deck. There will be a turn where you're going to have 12 treasures easily. You make 4/4/4s with haste and flying. That's a pretty good turn. I'm okay with that.
I don't know, man. I just think that I don't really play monocolored commanders, and I think that's kind of where my issue with a lot of these cards kind of lies. Because when I look at this, you know, we talk about committing crimes. There's definitely reliable ways to get around that. But if we're throwing every treasure production card into this deck to make 4/4 red dragon scorpions, why not just play Vahan? Add 2 colors. You're still making a ton of treasure, and then those treasures are creatures with vigilance and haste. I mean, I'll sacrifice 1 power to have 12 of those rather than 12 treasures and then, you know, 6 dragon. You know, I just I don't know. I like the card. If this is something you want to do, that's fun. I just rather add 2 more colors and have like more outlets to do other things.
I mean, I do agree with you. Like, yes, if you're looking at a pure like power level standpoint, I don't think the Magda is as powerful, but this does still allow you to do other things. Like playing around with the dragons does give you at least like a little bit more. I want to say it lowers down your overall threat level because it's not like you're making an army every single turn, and them coming in with haste and with that evasion is very nice. The other thing here being too is that unlike the card you just compared it to, Magda is just like passively making treasures for you.
Yes, as long as you're committing those crimes, which I mean, most of the time when you're playing mono red, you are committing crimes on people for sure. I mean, I do enjoy this card to the fact you can throw things in like Dragon's Tempest and just kind of like deal damage, you know, passively with just your dragons entering the battlefield. You know, Tear the Peaks is a really good one to kind of do that too. You're playing with treasures, so Goldspan Dragon is fantastic. I just, I mean, I see the upside of this card. I see what it can do. I do agree that you are probably not going to be the biggest threat at the table while playing this rather than something else that will definitely gain the attention of your opponents a little bit more. I just rather play multiple colors. I think that's my only hark on this card.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to the grades. David, what are you giving Magda?
He is really hard for me to judge, so I'm going to err on the side of caution here and actually go high. I'm going to go with a C.
Wow, that's high. I was going to say that's middle of the road for me. I am also going to agree with you just because of the whole safety valves and everything on this card. Magda is getting a C.
I don't like her. I'm gonna go back down to a D.
I did poop on this card a lot, but I do think that it still is middle of the road, so I will give it a C.
Magda, the Hoardmaster, gets the average grade of a C. And our final card, and also the only mono green card in this set, is Bristly Bill Spine Sower. It's 1 and a green for a 2/2 legendary creature, Plant Druid. It has Landfall, which says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It also has another ability. You can pay 3 and 2 green, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control.
Hunter.
Sign me up. I actually kind of built a deck around this card just to kind of test it, and boy, oh boy, is it a fun one. Just passively, the landfall triggers, you just make it a lands matter deck, and then your creatures just grow along with that. Once you get enough land, because you are in mono green, Steven, I will come to you in a second, you're just going to be doubling the counters on every creature you control over and over and over and over and over. Your creatures are going to be massive, and you're going to win. Moving it over to Steven, because Steven, you have talked up mono green plenty of times before in our Commander Grades video. Very easy to ramp.
Yeah, I have done that, haven't I?
Yeah.
I do like this card. I think the only bad thing about this card is it is target creature. But again, you're playing mono green. Big stompy. Big ramp. Tons of ways to get multiple +1/+1 counters and, you know, fight spells, protection. I mean, it's pretty good. I really can't fault it. I'm just shocked that you built a deck around this, Hunter. I mean, you know, I've never known you to play land matters decks and +1/+1 counters.
That's why I built it. It's
Going
my
down a new
favorite.
avenue, dude. Yeah. Oh, what's your favorite,
I,
sir?
th- I think you guys are really missing the point of this commander, to be completely honest. So you could put that +1/+1 counter on any creature. This is your group hug deck. I'm just going to be dishing out +1/+1 counters to all my opponents' things and being like, hey guys, go beat each other with them. And like, I'm going to keep my fetch land up to just cause chaos in combat.
So
Oh man, that would be so messed up.
the main thing I kind of built this deck around is to put counters on himself, because you can very much do that and then just continue to double the counters on itself and swing in with that commander damage. There are different ways to give it menace or trample or any ways of evasion, putting a rogue's passage here, you will kill your opponent very quickly.
Ooh,
Voltron?
that's my least favorite way to play this card. Because ultimately he's a big dumb beater without support. And I don't like those.
That's why you build around him, Dave. He's the
I-
commander. He
I
comes
get
down
it.
early. He's 2 mana.
I get it. You say build around him as if it's just like what you, I don't know, wouldn't do in a commander deck. Obviously, you're going to build around him. But your opponents are also like playing these removal spells, and I don't know. I like him more so as go wide. I was playing around earlier as the politics group hug, but you can do that.
No one's playing his politics group hug, Dave.
You know what? Maybe I will.
When Bristly Bill was first shown, I was so hyped, and it was for no reasons that Hunter was hyped for, because I was just recently playing with Discana, and him being a bear that makes all your bears bigger, I thought was fantastic. So I don't even know if I want him at my helm, but I think he is a fantastic include into something like that. That's all that I gotta say about this guy.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I also threw in every single other kind of landfall mono green card that just puts this with support. And hey, maybe I will post the deck tech to our channel very soon. But I love this card. Let's go ahead and move on to the grades. I will start. Bristly Bill starts with 2 Bs, but I'm giving it an A.
Wow,
Wow.
clever dude. Next.
Sorry, I'm at a loss for words.
I think as a commander, not as a support piece, he's much more middle of the road for me. I'm gonna give him a C.
I'm also gonna give him a C. I don't actually care much for Bristly Bill.
You know what, Hunter? You're right. I don't say that often, but you're right. Bristly Bill does start with 2 Bs, and that's why he's going to get a B.
Right. Well, Bristly Bill Spine Sower does, in fact, get the average grade of a B. But that is going to do it for us today. If you guys liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, comment down below. Did you guys agree with our grades here? Maybe we missed a point completely, in which case, comment and let us know. Also, in the description, you will find links to all of our social media accounts. That is TikTok, that's Twitter, that's Instagram, @GuysAtMagic. For each of those, follow us on those as well. On the screen right now, that's right, those are all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you guys so much for your added support. It means the world to us. If you guys wanted to see what they are seeing, which is not here on YouTube, check the link in the description below and consider subscribing. And until the next video, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Later.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.